upload this into GitHub and share you this repo. So everything that we do in this webinar, you will have access to it. All you need to do is download the repo as zip, or you can clone it into your system. Okay, great. Now we have three things to learn. First, we will do a quick recap of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and then we would look into some of the basic concepts of React. And finally, we would be building this project into our webinar. Okay. What is this? This is you can say IMDb clone, okay, where you can see all the movies, and then you have some options. You can search for top rated, most popular, and upcoming movies. And if you click on any of them, you would also be able to see a proper description and what this movie is all about, right? So this would be our final goal, that we would be building this project. Okay, cool. Now, without any delay, let us quickly look into the recap of the subjects HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. All right. So what I have done is I have created some short notes which we are going to follow throughout this course. Okay. Now I am inside my HTML folder and I have a very simple index.html file. Okay. If somebody is wondering how I can create that, so let me just delete it. Now, if you right click on it, you have the option to creating a new file, and you can just type index.html. It would create a HTML file, right? Now, if I talk in very simple terms, so let me open up a whiteboard real quick. See, what we are going to learn is how we can build a web application, right? What is web application? We all know all sort of websites we use on a regular basis. Let it be Amazon, let it be Flipkart, let it be Google for that matter, or Netflix. We all use different kind of websites, right? Now, all the website that you see on the internet, mainly in the front end part, they use three things: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay. Now let us take a very simple example. Let's say you want to build a car. Okay. Now for building that car, the first thing that you need to do is build the complete skeleton or the chassis of the car, right? You would start with building up all the things, designing portion. You would build up chassis, the skeleton of the car, and that portion is done by HTML in terms of web development. Okay. So if you want to build the skeleton of any website, you would need HTML for that, right? What will be your next step? You want to make your car look beautiful, right? You would add some nice fenders, some colors, beautiful doors, headlights, all of those, right? Because you want your car to look cool. That thing is done by CSS for our websites. Okay. Now, after these two sections, you want your car to be functional, right? Because what's the point of the car if it doesn't, if it can't go to point A to point B, right? So you would install engine into your car. And that functionality or that engine is basically JavaScript when we talk about web development, right? Cool. Now, let us quickly look into the HTML portion. Okay, so now we have built the index.html file. Now, if you have the VS Code installed properly, and we have a comment, could you explain the topics one more? What do you mean by that? One more? Yeah, I was talking about the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript section. So whenever you want to build any kind of web application, you need these three things. HTML basically define the structure of your website, right? So you can say if I go to let's say I go to Amazon's website, right? Let's say Amazon. So if you look into this, so you see there is a skeleton in this website. First, there is a nav bar. Then there is this search filters, right? And then you can see all the products here, all the products, some videos, then some cards, then some images, right? So you have built up skeleton of your whole website. That first it will show this, then this, then this. This is called skeleton. Now you can see all these colors, right? There are some colors. When I'm hovering over something, something is happening, right? Some things are getting highlighted, some things are happening, it is looking beautiful, right? And that's designing is done by CSS. Now if I, let's say, click on this watch image. So this page is opening up. Now I can see the buying options and I can buy something from this. This is called the functionality of the website, right? And this functionality is achieved with JavaScript. Cool. Great. Great. Now, let us go to our index.html. Okay. Now, if you click shift and this one, you would get a emit abbreviation. These are really simple. The name is a little bit complicated. Basically, it gives you a code snippet in order to get started. All right. Now, if I hit enter, you see I would get code snippet of my HTML file. Now, basically, HTML consists of tags. Okay, we have some tags with which we can define the whole structure of our web page. Right. The starting tag is doc type HTML. With this line, we are basically telling our whole compiler that we are going to write a HTML file. Okay, and then the main tag. This is the HTML tag that comes into the picture. Now, every HTML tag consists of two things, a opening tag and a closing tag. For example, let's say, let's define this again. So first of all, we have a HTML tag, and you see this HTML tag consists of two things. First, this is a opening tag, and this is a closing tag. What's the difference? In an opening tag, you only have this angular brackets, right? But in the closing tag, first you have an angular bracket, then slash, the name of the tag, and then the closing angular bracket, right? So this is the HTML tag. Now inside my HTML tag, you see this is the opening tag, right? And inside it, I have a head tag, right? And I have a body tag. So simple enough. First, we have a HTML tag. Inside it, we have a head tag. And after that, we have a body tag, right? Now these things are defined for different reasons. Inside my HTML, I have mainly two tags, head and body. In the head tag, I define all the requirements I need in order to render my application to the browser. Okay. For example, I add some meta tags into it. Meta tags are basically used for SEO purposes. I add some titles, I add some CSS files, some JavaScript files. All of the configuration you want to define for your web page, you define inside your head tag. Cool enough? Now, everything you want to render in the browser, you want to show the user all of those stuff you define in the body tag. For example, let me just delete that. For example, I just want to create a h1 tag. H1 tag is basically for headings and say hi. All right. Now, control S, I have saved the file. Now, there is a great extension called live servers. So I would highly recommend to go to the extension section and install the live server. Okay, you can see this now. It is in all, I have already installed it, that's why it's showing uninstall. So you would get a install button here, install it and enable it. How this is going to help us? If you have let me just minimize this section. So if you have live server installed, what you can do is you would get a go live button at the bottom of your code editor. If you click on it, then it would open a page for you. Okay, and this is how you are able to create your first website. Great. Now, what's the use of this live server? So basically, whenever I will make a change here, let's say, hi, how are you? Okay. And I control save, you see, your web page is basically automatically got refreshed, right? So that's the point of using live server. All right. Now, as we are just quickly look into HTML, let me just discuss about some of the key. We have talked about some elements and tags, right? All these are the closing tag and starting tag and closing tag. We talked about what is doc type HTML, HTML tag, head tag, body tag, right? Now there are, let us discuss about some of the other common tags that we are going to use throughout this HTML, right? The first one is headers. So I have already shown you what is a H1 tag. Now we also have a H2 tag. Now if I say hi, you see H2 is basically a little bit smaller in font size compared to H1. Similarly, we have H3. If I let's say hi again, this is, you can see all a little bit more smaller compared to H2. Similarly, I have H4 and I have till H6, right? So H5 and finally we have H6, right? All of these are what the headers that we have. Okay, so these are our header tags. Next, if I look into the notes again, I have some paragraph tags. So basically, if I write, hello, how are you doing? And if you are thinking, you can just go to the next line and write, I am, let's say, doing great. Now, you guys might be thinking that, hey, I have written it here, and on the next line I have added, I am doing great. So these two lines should come one after another, right? But if I control save, you would notice that, hey, though I have added these two on a different line, they are coming together, right? So here, if you want to separate out two lines from each other, or you can say you want to create a new paragraph, then you can write in a paragraph tag. Like you can create a paragraph tag and then say, I am doing great, right? Control save, and you see now this is coming to a different line, right? Great. So this is the paragraph tag that we have. Okay. Now we have a link tag. Link tags are basically, again, anchor tags. So if I say anchor, and then if you want to create some links for your website, for example, let us take a very simple example, https colon slash slash google.com, google.com, and let me write click me. Okay. So you would notice that I have gotten a link for my web page. And at the moment I will click on it, I would be redirected to google.com, right? This is how you can add a link in your application. Great. Then what we have, the image tags. Now images are also very simple. We have lot of media tags here. We can render an image, we can render a video, we can render a audio, anything you want, right? Now for using image tag, we can simply write img and hit enter. Now you see, unlike the anchor tag and paragraph tag, there is no closing tag, right? So some of the tags you would notice in HTML, those are self-closing tags. Like you don't need a closing tag in order to close this tag. These are self-closed. Okay. Now, in this image tag, you might be wondering there are two things, right? You can see src and all. These are called attributes of tags. Okay. Some of the tags in HTML would have attributes by which you can define the nature of those tags. For example, here if I control save, you would notice I have there is no change in my web page, right? So let me just do one thing. Let me quickly go to, let's say, web development, and I go to the images, and let us download this image. So save image as, let's say, downloads, and save, right? Now I would quickly go to downloads, grab this image and paste it into my HTML section, right? Now I would like to rename it. Let's say hi. All right. Simple. Now I want to show this image into my web page. How can I do that? All I need to do is go to the src and type hi.jpg. And at the moment I will do control save, you can see I can see the full image into my web page. Right now, there are some other attributes as well. Like I can say the width would be, let's say, 100 pixels, and the height would be, let's say, 100 pixels again. And control save, so I can make my image smaller, right? Great. Let's say now I have made a spelling mistake here. So height is 100 pixels, right? Great. Got it. Now, so this is about image. Now, what is this ALT? So for any reason, let's say the image you are trying to access is not there, right? Or you have made some mistakes anywhere. So alt is basically the text you want to show instead of the image if the image is not available, right? Because you want to tell the user that whatever you have something here, for any reason, this you are not able to display it. So what is the image all about, right? So I should write web development here, right? Web development. Cool. So this is all about the image tag. Then we have lists. If you want to show some list, we have two kinds of list here. Two kinds of list here. We have ordered list and we have unordered list. If you want to create a ordered list, you have OL for that. Sorry, here, OL for. Now, in ordered list, we can add some list item. For example, The list item tag is li tag. And let's say this is item one, and we have item two, and similarly item three, and control save. So you can see this is an ordered list that I have. I can see the order, right? One, two, three, and so on. Cool. Now, if you want to create an unordered list, you need to use the UL tag. Here also, you will create three list items and control save. And you can see these are the unordered list you have created, right? Great, great. Now, we have images, we have list. Now, you can also create a tables inside our HTML, right? So let's say I want to create a table. For that, the tag that we have is a table tag, right? And after that, let's say this is a table. Now, inside your tables, these are some of the suggestions that I'm getting due to tab 9. Now, I have purchased it, but you guys won't be getting it, right? This is like just like the GitHub Copilot. So just ignore it, right? Great. So inside your table, what we have? We have different rows, right? The first row basically contains all the tables header that I have, right? So this is the, let's say the first table row. And here I want to define the table headers. So for defining table headers, I will use a th tag. And let's say this is the name. Okay. Now again, create another table header. This is age. And let's say another table header, which will contain phone number, right? Now, if I control save, you guys can see. So basically, I have name, age, and phone number, right? Yeah, cool, great. Now I need to add different rows into my table. So let's say this is the first row I have added. So table row. Now instead of table header, I can use table data. So TT, right? And at the moment I'll hit enter. So you see, I have the first row added, right? If you want to add another row, you can also do that. So I'll have two rows, right? And if you want to add some borders into your table, we have a border attribute for your tables. So let's say I want to add 2 pixel border. So you can also add borders into your HTML tables. Though we have much more advanced CSS libraries and components for creating beautiful tables, we don't use these kind of tables anymore, right? But still, this is a very important tag in your HTML, right? Next is another very important tag, that is
Excuse
your
me, sir.
form tag. Sorry.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
सर टेबल वाला आप रिपीट कर सकते हैं क्या?
Table wala. Table, if you want to create tables in HTML, then you have your table tag, right? अब एक table में we have, first we need to define the headers, right? Because when you are creating a table, like for example a CSV, right? So first you define all the headers you have. Now, for example, I am just storing the student's data, right? So I would say name, age, and phone number. So this is the first row of my table. So I would create all of the headers into my table row, right? So inside the table row tag, I have table header. So the first header is name, second is age, third is phone number. So this is the first row into my table. Now you can see how many rows I have left. Two rows. This is the first entry. This is the second entry. So I have created another table row. Now inside my table row, I have table data. The first data is John, second is 25, third data is this phone number, right? And you can see this is the first entry into my table. Again, I have created another table row, right? Now, for example, I want to create another table row. So I would do again tr and then td. So the first data I want to add, let's say my name, right? Then my age, and then my phone number, something, something, right? Control S, and you see, I have added another row into my table. Got it? Clear what?
Yes, sir.
Great. Now,
Yes, sir.
talk about another very important tag that we have in HTML, that is the form tag. Okay. Now, this is a very important tag and you will see it many times throughout your web development journey. Okay. So let's say I want to create a form. First, you would start with a form tag. Okay. With a action blank. Now, what is this action attribute? We can discuss it later on sometimes. Basically, this action defines that when this form is submitted, what should I do? Okay. Now, basically, inside your form tag, you can have multiple input tags. Okay. What you can have multiple input tags. For example, for now, I just want to take a text input. So this is how you can do it. Now, let me just control save it and see what happens. So you see, this is my form. Now, what I want to do is take some inputs, right? So for example, now I need to tell the user that what is this input about, right? Otherwise, what you expect your user to input here, right? For that, we have labels. We have labels. Now let me just remove this br tag for the moment, and you have first name this, right? Great. Let me add a br tag here. Br tag is basically giving some space into it, right? So some space between the two elements of HTML, right? Great. Now, this label is basically telling the user what is the expected input is. What is the expected input, right? Now, sorry for the interruption. Now, this label, we have some attributes like the for. Okay. Now you'd notice what the for name is f name. Okay. First name, right? Now, this basically is the text that would be displayed to the user. Okay. Now, this is my input field. In every input field, I can say what type of input is this. So here, what type of input I would like to take? I would like to take a text input, right? This is a ID field. This is very important. We will discuss about this ID, why this is important. Okay. For now, just ignore ID and then the name. Now you see, I need to link this label and input somehow. And for linking that, we use this name attribute in the input, and this is this f name. And in the label, this is for. Okay. So for this input, we have this label. This is how we create the mapping between the label tag and the input tag. Okay. Now you can have multiple input types. For example, if you want to, let's say this is another type of input. Now this type of input depends upon whatever input you want to take. Here you can have multiple type of inputs. Let's say if you want to take a password input. Okay. So not last name, but I want to take password. Okay. Password. So you see, you got a password field. Now you might be wondering what is the difference between them. So if you type something in the field, you would look like this. But if you want to type a password, you see this is encrypted, right? So, and you can create drop downs, you can create radio boxes, you can create multiple input fields with help of the inputs, right? For example, you can also take a type email, right? Now you can add a submit button. Okay. Now, what does the submit button would do? So you see, this is type submit and value submit. Okay. If you click this for now, your page should reload because this submit you have defined basically here. So what is the action you would do if someone submits your form? For now, nothing. And nothing means basically reloading your page. So this is the default nature of your form, that whenever someone will submit this form, your page would be reloaded. Okay. Great. So these are some of the very important tags of HTML. Now there are many more other tags, right? Like interesting tag is iframe, right? So if you go to YouTube, let's say you go to YouTube and um, let's say play any video, right? Play any video, whatever. Let's say this one, right? Now, if you go to the share section, you would find a embed option, and there you would find a HTML tag called iframe. Now, if you copy this iframe and if you come down and paste this iframe here and control save, you would notice now you can render the YouTube video into your web page itself, right? And you can play it, you can hear the sound, you can do anything with it, right? You can define the height and width also. So if you have a default height and width, but if you want to change it, you can, right? So this is the iframe tag. We have multiple more other tags in form. Also, we have, as I told you, we have field set, we have radio buttons, we have drop downs, many more other fields you guys can explore, right? But what I tried to do is tell you about in a very brief what all main tags we have in HTML, right? Now, should we move to CSS? Yes or no? Should we move to CSS, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes? Great, great. All right. Now, these are, we are just going to discuss about these four things. right? These four things. As I told you before, the main agenda of this class is React, not CSS. So though in the codes that I take for web development, we have dedicated 5 to 6 classes only for CSS. But again, we need to cover it up real quick. So the first thing, how we can make our website more beautiful. Let's say we have a index.html page, right? We have an index.html page and I hit enter and this is my HTML page that I have, right? So first of all, what I like to do, I would like to make my live server stop and go live again to render this application. Now, if I write, let's say hi, so this hi is visible here. Okay, guys, please stop doing this. Okay, I can write hi here. Great. Now, I want to style my web page. For example, I'll take a very simple one. I want to change the color of this. Let's say I create a h1 tag and say hello. Okay. Now I want to change the color of this text. How can I do that? Okay. That is basically styling, right? In very simple terms. So first, I would like to talk about different ways of adding CSS into your web page. Oh, I forgot to mention. What is the full form of HTML? I hope everyone knows it.
Hypertext the markup language.
Architect. Correct. Correct. Hypertext markup language. What is the full form of CSS?
Cascading
Style
uh,
sheet. Cascading style sheet. Bilkul correct. Now, why the name cascading style sheet? Here, I have seen many senior programmers don't have a clear idea. So I would like to talk about a little bit. Okay, but let us talk about first that how we can add CSS. The first and very simple way of adding CSS is create a style tag. And in your style tag, you can write that h1. I have selected this h1. I can say color is red. Okay. Control S and C. I'm able to change the color of this text. Great. This is called what? Internal CSS. Adding internal CSS. Okay. This is the first way you can add CSS into your application. Now let me just comment it out. So if you click on control and forward slash, you can comment and uncomment any section of the code. Another way of adding style, you can go here and write style and say color red. And you'd also notice that this is changed to red, right? This is called inline CSS. Okay. We have also another way of adding CSS. Let's say I have a h2 tag saying good morning or good evening. Okay. Good evening. Right. Now I want to change its color to blue. Right. So what I should do, which is a very proper way of doing things, is create a styles.css file. And I would say the h2 tags, I should change its color to blue. Okay, control save. And you see nothing happened here. Why? Because you have just created a CSS file. You haven't linked that CSS file to your HTML page, right? So how you can do that? You can go here and write style, link a CSS sheet called style.css. Now, my page name is styles.css, not style, right? So I should change its name to styles.css. And you see, at the moment you do that, your text will be changed to blue, right? And this is called external CSS. Okay. So you have three options. You can choose internal CSS, inline CSS, and external CSS. Now I have a question. For example, if for any reason I do this, so I have now a inline CSS, internal CSS, and external CSS, all of them combined in this file, right? So here I have said the color of h1 should be red. But in the inline CSS I have mentioned the color of h1 should be, let's say I make it green. Okay. Now can anyone tell me what would be the final color of h1? Will it be red or green?
Red, red,
Sorry,
Green.
red.
red.
green, sir.
Okay, let's see. So control save and it would be green. Why? Now, can anyone tell me what is the uh, order of what to say priority order of inline CSS, external CSS, and uh, internal CSS? Anyone?
Inline is highest priority, sir, and internal is like second priority, and at the end, external is like it's given lowest priority, sir.
Okay. So let's say if I do this and here I say H1, your color should be orange, right? Basically, nothing happened. But what I was trying to tell you here, this is not the appropriate example. Let's see. Um, this is the style sheet. Okay, my bad. I changed the wrong one. So here, let's do one thing. I have said H1 color should be orange, right? And Control S. Uh, yeah, and let me just remove this for now. Control S. Now, sorry. Now it would be orange, right? Basically, what I want to tell you is there is no proper priority order for CSS. CSS stand for cascading style sheet. Cascading means from top to bottom. Okay. CSS properties will take place the way you have defined them. For example, in this case, this is my internal CSS where I have added the color red. And this is my external CSS where I have added the color orange. So now the color of my H1 tag is being orange. But here, if I do this, if I let's say Control X, and now I have done this. Control S. Now it would be red. Why? Because first you have tell me that okay, make the color to be orange. Now you have telling me that make the color to red. So I would make it red, right? So CSS will take place according to the last property that you have defined throughout your website. Got it? Now that's why the internal CSS takes up most priority. Why? Because here, if you say style color, let's say green, right? So it would be green. Why? Because this is defined at the last, not because there is any priority order that is mentioned in any books. There is no priority order in CSS. It is complete. It completely depends upon the way you have written it. Got it? Got it? Great. Now, most of the cases you should use external CSS because it keeps your code more cleaner because there are two separate files. You should not use inline CSS because it creates a lot of confusion. The only scenario when you can use it is, let's say you just want to make some simple changes and you don't have a huge code base, then you can do it. Inline CSS you should avoid most of the times. Okay. So from now on, what we do is use a external CSS, right? Great. Cool, cool. Okay. So the first step is covered. Next thing is CSS selectors. The most important portion is in the CSS, this whole CSS is that let's say I have a div. I have a div tag, some text here. So Lauren 34. Okay. Now I have another div here saying this is another div, right? So I would have all the text here, right? Now I need to, in order to style my web page, first of all, I need to select some elements and then apply the styling, right? And that's where the selectors come into the picture. So the first selector is the tag selector that you guys have already seen, right? We can have different tags, right? So here, what tags I have? I have a H1 tag, I have a H2 tag, I have a div tag, right? So what you can do is select a particular tag like this. Let's say div. I have selected all the divs in my HTML. And I would say, let's say font size 24 pixels. Okay, right? So all the divs you can see, and now would take the font size to 24 pixels, right? So this is the font size property that we have. Div is basically a tag in HTML, right? You have just seen the paragraph tag. Now div is also another tag. Now, as you have talked about this, let me clarify. There are two kinds of tag basically, blocking elements and non-blocking elements. What are blocking elements? So the flow of HTML goes from left to right. Okay. Now, if you use a block element for example, the header tags H1, H2, the div tag, the paragraph tag, what it does is it disrupts the flow of HTML. So your flow is from left to right. If you use a div, So this was your flow. You use another div, it will block it, and the next line will come from the bottom of it. Okay. Now there are some non-blocking elements. For example, the span tag, the image tag. If you use two span tag, so everything would come from left to right. There will be nothing that would block the flow of your content. Okay. So div is another block element in CSS. Okay. Sorry, in HTML. Okay. Cool. Now, so you have said, okay, the font size is 24 pixels. Now, let's say, so this is the tag selector. But for example, I want to select only this div and change its color to red. So what I would do, then I have two options, class selector and ID selector. Let's say I give it a class of red. Okay, class of red. And control is, now nothing will happen. Why? Because I haven't selected that particular div. How can I select it? I have given it a class red, right? Sorry. Okay, class red. So in order to select the class, you should use a dot, and then name of the class. So red, and then you can write the color would be red. Okay. Now you see only the color of this div is red. Cool. Now you can also give ID. Okay. So let's say the ID is green. Okay, green. Now if you want to select IDs, then what you need to do? You can write a hashtag symbol and green, and then color green, right? Now you see this has changed to green color. Now you might be wondering, so what is the difference between a class and an ID?
Yeah, yeah.
See,
Sir, class can be used for many tags and ID can be used only for one tag.
absolutely correct. So, but tell me one thing. If I, let's say, create another div, okay, I create uh, another div, and give it a ID. Again, same ID, green. What will happen? What will happen? Can you tell me? I should not do that, right? I should not assign same IDs, correct? Control S, and you can see nothing happened. It is working fine, right? So see, this I should not ever do this thing. I should not assign same ID to different elements. Though in HTML and CSS, you won't have any errors because in HTML and CSS, these two are scripting languages. In scripting languages, these languages are very forgiving. They will never throw an error. In most cases, you will never find any kind of error in HTML and CSS, right? It would try to render it anyhow, but when you will try to access this divs with same ID in JavaScript, you would have a huge problem, right? So that's why you should not give same ID to different elements. Okay. So this is what I was trying to tell you. Otherwise, you are absolutely correct. You can assign same class to multiple elements, but you should never assign same ID to different class, because ID is basically unique selector. Class is basically multiple selectors. With ID, you can select particular element uniquely. All right, got it? Okay, so this is the difference between class and ID. We also have a universal selector. So we have a tag selector, we have class selector, we have ID selector, we also have universal selector. Let's say you want to select everything that is there in the whole web page. So for that, you can use a star and this. Basically, what happens is by default, the HTML and CSS, when you create a HTML file, the browser provides us with some margin and padding. You can see between this text, there is some margin, right? On the left, but we haven't defined any kind of margin or something. This is by default provided by the browser. Okay. So if you don't want that, and most of the times you should, this is a good practice that when you are starting your development, always keep everything in your hand. You want to add the margin and padding. You don't want to allow the browser to add some external margin and padding. So what you should do is, let's say, we haven't studied about margin and padding. Let me do one thing. Background color, let's say green, not green, gray, gray. So you see the whole background color would be gray. Okay. Now, when we are talking about colors, let me talk a little bit more about colors. So we have multiple type of colors we can assign to any web page. So we have RGB colors, we have RGBA colors, right? So A is basically when you bring down the opacity of your color, you use RGBA. Okay. So we also have HSL colors. If you click on them, you can have hex code. This is the hex code. This is the HSLA color. This is HWB color, and this is RGBA color. Okay. So these are different kind of colors that you can use for your web page. All right. So we are, yeah, sorry. We are done with CSS selectors. Now let me just talk about the box model that we have in CSS. So for that,
देखिए सर
sorry.
सर अगर हमें किसी div क्लास जो div1 है अगर सिर्फ
Hmm.
उसकी कोई 2 से 3 वर्ड सेलेक्ट करने हो उनका कलर चेंज करना हो
Then you can use a span tag. For example, here you want to highlight this, let's say this another div. Okay. You want to make it bold. Okay. So you can use a span tag here. And you can keep it inside the span tag. For now, you won't see any changes, right? The another div is seen as it is. Now you can add an ID. For example, here you want to make it red. Okay. So I would say ID red COL. Okay. Now I would go to my style tag. This is I have added a ID, right? Yeah, ID. So I would select this ID. So red COL, and I would say color red. And you see the another div is changed, right? Now you can add other things. This is another div, and in this div we have a different text style in between. Control S. And you see the whole div is green, but this portion is with another color, right? Cool. You can also add some text styles if you want to. Okay. So you can also add some background color, whatever you want. So this, if you just want to highlight this portion, right? So this is how you can do that. Is this clear? All right, all right, all right. So yeah, we want to talk about the box. Okay, so let us discuss about the box model of CSS. Cool. So we have, let's say I have a div with a now. Let me talk about emit abbreviations a little bit. So I want to create a div with a class container. So I would write like this container. Okay. So it would create a div with container. Now inside this div, let's say I have another div with a class box. Okay. Class box. Okay. And let's say this is my box. Okay. Control S, and you would only see the box. And for now, I want to write here margin 0 pixels, border 0 pixels, right? Okay. Cool enough. Now I have two classes, the container class, container. And here, let me add some border to it. So first of all, what I want to do, I want to add some width and height. Let's say I have added 400 pixels of width, and height also I wanted to add 400 pixels, right? 400 pixels, and some border, 2 pixels, solid red. Okay. So this is how I can add some borders into my container, right? Now I also have this box, right? Box. Okay, now let me add some width and height to it as well. So width, let's say 100 pixels, and height, let's say also 100 pixels, and some border, 2 pixels, solid blue. Okay, now what is the box model that I was talking about? We have mainly three things that we need to understand in very carefully: border, margin, and padding. Okay, first of all, let me start with margin. So consider this box, blue box. Okay. Now here, if I write margin 10 pixels, what would happen? You see what happened basically? This box, consider this the inner text, okay, the inner element. This I said margin 10 pixels. So it would add 10 pixel separation between the outer portion and its inner portion, 10 pixels on each side, the left, top, right, and bottom. Okay. So margin basically defines the separation between two different elements. This box is a different element. This red box, the outer container, is a different element. If I say margin 10 pixel, it defines the separation between two different elements. All right. Okay. Now you can also add margins for each sides. Let's say if I write margin top 10 pixels, then I would only have a margin 10 pixel separation 10 pixels from top of it. If I write margin left 10 pixel, then you notice I have a separation of 10 pixel from only the left. And if you want to add margins, and if you can write this, let's say 10 pixels and 20 pixels, what this means that from top and bottom, I have a margin of 10 pixel, and from right and left, I have a margin of 20 pixel. Now you can also add four different values here, let's say 10 pixels, 30 pixels, and 40 pixels, right? What this means that 10 pixel margin from top, 20 pixel margin from right, 30 pixels from bottom, and 40 pixels from left. Okay, so this moves clockwise. Okay, so these are the different values that you can add. Okay, so this is basically, now let me just remove all of them and write 20 pixels. Okay, so this is margin. Now let us understand about padding. If I write padding, let's say 20 pixels, what this will do? Okay, my bad, padding 20 pixels. What this will do? Notice what it done. So by writing margin, I created a separation between the two elements in HTML. By writing margin, I can create separation between the inner content of the text and the border of the particular element. So this box, this particular blue box was my container, was basically my element. And inside this, I have some content. I have some text, image, whatever, right? So if I want to create some separation between the border and the inner text or inner content, then I use padding. And similar for this also, you can add a padding top. Okay, so and you can add padding left, right? So you can have add different kind of padding. And here also you can add different values, let's say 20 pixels from top and bottom and 10 pixels from left and right. You can also do that, right? So this is basically padding. Now we have learned about three things. We have learned about borders, we have learned about padding, and we have learned about what? Margins, right? Now, basically, when you, let's say I click on it and I click right click on it and hit on inspect, and you see this. This is basically your CSS box model. Okay. For example, this blue box I want to focus. So this is my inner content. This box is my inner content. Okay. And you see this 20 pixel from top, 10 pixel from left, 10 pixel from right, and 20 pixel from bottom. This is my padding that I have given, right? This is the border that I have, right? The border. And this is the margin that I have created 20 pixel from each side. And this is called your CSS box model. Okay. Now, you see, I have specifically defined that, hey, the box should have a width and height of 100 pixel and 100 pixel. But as you can see here, this is my whole box. This is my whole box, right? And this box, if I hover over it, uh, this whole box is not 100 pixel 100 into 100 pixels, right? You see this, I need to keep it a little down. Mm, 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 mm. This box. This box is not 100 pixel into 100 pixel. It has some 123 into 143 pixels. Why? Can anyone tell me? I have defined 100 pixel into 100 pixel width and height, but it is taking more width and height than I have defined. Can anyone tell me why? This is a very obvious reason, guys. You have added the width and height is 100 and 100. Now you have added some margin, some padding. So it will add that all up now. You have added 20 pixel of margin, 10 pixel of padding. So 30 pixel, and on each side 1.5 pixel of what? Border, right? So you see 123.2, the whole width, right? So that you need to be very aware of, right? Now, but if you want to maintain a proper, what to say, proper, you want to create a picture, a pixel perfect website. You don't want these kind of things to happen. Then you need to do one thing. You can do box sizing, border box. And at the moment you do that, CSS will make sure that the width and height that you have defined, it will obviously also maintain that width. You see, now my box is 100 cross 100. So it will make sure that what width and height you have defined, it will only give the box that width and height. And every other thing, the box model will adjust themselves according to that only. Okay. So this is the box model that I have. Guys, I don't think we can move to the React portion, but yeah, it's all right. I guess until you guys are learning something, I don't have an issue with that. Okay. So this is the box model that we have in CSS, right? CSS box model. Now, these are some of the other properties that we have in CSS, like the positioning, the display property, the transitions, transformation, animation, media query, lot of other stuff. But these things are some advanced CSS properties we can discuss. We can again. The main purpose of this webinar is to discuss React, right? I don't think we can anymore. Okay, so for example, I talk about the display thing. The many is a very important skill that we need to center a div, right? We need to center a div. How can we do that? Let us just quickly see. So let's say I want to center this blue div in my red div, right? All you need to do is go to your container, make the display to flex, okay? Make the display flex, and you can say justify content center, and you can say align item center, align item center, and it would center the div. Right now you have added some margin and padding, that's why it is not centered proper. Sorry, my bad. That's why it is not some centered properly, but it is centered according to the blue box, right? I should remove the margin. So yeah, great, got it. So this is how you can center a div, which is a very important thing to learn. Okay, great. Now, should we move to JavaScript, guys? Do you guys have anything you want to ask me? No. Okay, great. So let us look into JavaScript now. All right. We have many things to discuss in JavaScript, but again, we would like to keep this short. So let's see script.js. So this is how you can create a JavaScript file, right? Now, again, we can create can anyone first I want to clarify one thing. What is the difference between a scripting language and a programming language? Can anyone tell me what is the difference between a scripting language and a programming language? Like for example, HTML and CSS are scripting languages, but JavaScript is a programming language. Any idea, guys? Why these two are different? So what is the difference between a scripting language and a programming language, guys?
Programming language used for full-fledged software, sir.
You can create a full-fledged software using HTML and CSS for that matter. So that is not a proper definition. Anything else?
And the CSS used for the design, sir, and HTML used for the website structure.
That's correct, but I'm asking you what is the difference between a scripting language? Scripting languages are HTML, CSS, XML, YML file. These are scripting languages. Programming languages
Yeah.
are JavaScript, Java, C++, C. So what is the basic difference between these two?
Uh,
So JavaScript is
Come
used
again.
is adding the data in the website structure, sir.
Okay, see, okay, you guys have some idea, but the main difference is using a scripting language, you can only describe or tell how things should look or how things should look. Okay. For example, using HTML, you can just say that this is my div. Under it, I have an image, I have a table, I have a form, all that. Using CSS, you can say this is red, this is violet, this should look like this should look like this. But you cannot ever create logic using scripting languages. Using CSS and HTML, you cannot create logic. Can with only CSS and CSS and HTML, can you create the logic? For example, when the user will click on this button, then your div will appear. Then you would get some alert message. So if this then that is logic, right? So if this happens, then this happens, then this happens. This is whole logic building. You cannot create logic using scripting languages, but using programming languages, you can create logic. Okay. So with JavaScript, you can create logic. Okay. So this is the difference between a scripting language or programming language. Now, JavaScript is a interpreted language. Okay. Unlike C++ or Java, which are compiled language. Can anyone tell me which is the difference between a compiled language and an interpreted language? Okay, let's
In
leave it.
interpreted language, the system itself compiles automatically.
Yeah, basically, interpreted languages doesn't need a compiler to compile themselves. In compiled language, first the whole file will be compiled, and then that particular compiled file will run. For example, Java, if you we use Java C compile, then right, we compile the class file and then we run the file, right, using JVM and all that. But leave it for now. And interpreted is basically line by line execution. So from top to bottom, it will execute each of the line individually, and at the moment it will get some error, it will stop the execution. So that is interpreted language. Great. Now, yeah, different ways of writing JavaScript. So for example, okay, so let's see, let's create our index.html file. Okay, and this is my index.html. Sorry, my bad. No, I have made a typo, so let me name it. Okay, great. All right, now let me close this and go live. Okay. Now, basically, if you want to run JavaScript code, you have two options. Either you can use the power of browsers. Okay. So if I go here and click on inspect and go to console, this basically provides me an JavaScript editor. For example, you can write a equals, let's say 24. Okay. So let a equals 24. Okay. Hit enter and you can write console,
ആനന്ദായിരുന്നോ?
sorry, dot log and then a. And you see, we have the value of 24. So this is a JavaScript editor that we have in the browser where we can write JavaScript code. But you can see this is not a very appropriate way of writing it. So what we can do is create a JavaScript file and we can execute the JavaScript file in the browser, right? For example, here if I write alert, we are learning JavaScript. Okay, control S, right? Now you can say nothing will happen, nothing, you cannot see anything here. Obviously you won't. So because we haven't linked this JavaScript file to this HTML page. If you want to link your JavaScript into your HTML, what you can do, there are two options. Either you can use a script tag here and let's say alert hello, right? So you will get an alert saying hello. Okay, right? So this is one way of doing it. This is called internal JavaScript, or you can link your style sheet, right? So you can say script and then src, what you want to add, your script.js file. So control S and you see we are learning JavaScript, you got an alert, right? So these are two different ways of adding JavaScript to your HTML folder, right? Now, let us quickly summarize all the main concept of any programming language. First, you need to know that how we can, let me go to the notes, how we can create variables. So variables. Okay. So, like any other programming languages, I hope you guys are familiar with some programming language, let it be Java or C++ or C or Python for that matter. If you want to create variables in JavaScript, there are two keywords, that is let and const. Okay. So let's say let a equals 20. Basically, what are variables? You need to store multiple type of things inside something, like, right? So for example, if you have a value, let's say a string or integer, a boolean or anything, right? So you need something in order to store that. And those are your variables, right? So let's say this is let a equals 20. You can say let b equals, you can also add a string, right? You can add a string. We have booleans, so let bool equals, you can say false. Okay, so unlike Java or C++, you don't need particular keywords for creating different kind of variables. You can use let. There is another way of defining variables, that is const val equals, let's say hello. Okay, now what is the difference between let and const? Let basically, if you create let, that is basically mutable. So I have said a equals 20. Later on, I can write a equals to 30 and it won't create any problem. But const are immutable values, right? So if you said that const val equals to hello, you cannot write val equals to hi. You cannot do that, right? Because it will create a problem. At the moment you will do that, you see, you will getting an error, right? saying assignment to constant variable. This is a constant variable that you have created, so you cannot change it, right? So this is the difference between let and const. And this is how you can create variables into your application, right? So this is what we should not do. Should not do, right? Okay. Let me just remove this alert method here. That's why we are getting this alert. Yeah, great. Now, let us talk about operators. So, unlike like any other programming languages, we have multiple operators. So, first, let's talk about mathematical operators. So, we have multiple mathematical operators. For example, let a equals 10. Now, I have let num1 equals 10. Let num2 equals 20. Now, I can say log. Basically, if you want to print something in the console, you write console.log and num1 plus num2, right? Control S, and you see 30 is printed. Now, similarly, we have minus operator, negative operator, we have multiply, we have divide by, right? And we also have what? A modulo operator. Modulo operator basically returns us the remainder of this whole thing. So if num1 is 10, num2 is 20, so modulo is 10. Got it? This is how this whole thing works. Okay. All right. So this is the mathematical operators that we have. We also have bit operators like AND, OR, NAND, XOR, but we don't want to go there. Next is logical operator. Logical operators. Okay. Now, before we do that, let me discuss a little bit about conditional statements. Let's say I want to create a program where, let's say, let age equals 20. Now, I want to create a logic where if my age value is greater than 18, I should print you are permissible to drive. Otherwise, I should print you are not permissible to drive. So how can I achieve that? If I want to achieve that, I need to use conditional statements, that is if and else. So I would write if my age is greater than or equals to 18, then I can print you are permitted. You are permitted, right? Else, if this is not the case, I should write you are not permitted, right? So what are these? This is my logical operators, right? So this is a statement. This is a condition, right? So if this is true, this condition can be true or false, right? So inside my if this condition is true, then this piece of code would be executed. And if it is false, then this piece of code would be executed, right? For example, my age is right now 20. So if I control save, you see you are getting a message, you are permitted. But at the moment, I would let it be 10. So you would say you are not permitted, right? So this is how your logical operator works. Okay. Now, let's say I want to create a different kind of logic. I want if my age is greater than 18, but it should also be less than 60, then only I can say you are permitted to drive. Okay. So then what I can do? So first condition is my age should be greater than 18. But now if I make it, let's say 70, it would show me you are permitted to drive, but that should not happen, right? So I have two conditions here. First condition is my age should be greater than equals to 18. Second condition, my age should be less than 60. So how can I achieve that? For that, here we have logical operator, that is AND. So my age should be greater than 18 and my age should be less than 60. If these two conditions are true, then only I can say you are permitted. But here these two conditions are not true. That's why I'm getting you are not permitted. But at the moment I will make it 55, you'll see you are permitted. I will get this message. Now guys, please tell me, is this portion clear? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
I'm focusing on
Yes, sir.
JavaScript. We only have 15 minutes left in this webinar. So again, there is no point discussing about React because most of you guys, as I have known, are not familiar with JavaScript. So let us complete the JavaScript section more. Okay, that would be, I guess, better for you because I can teach you guys React, but you won't understand a single thing. So what's the point, right? Great. So this is the logical operator AND. Now, how this AND works? So if you use AND, you need to make sure that your condition on the left and condition on the right both are true. We have a truth table, right? So if my condition 1 is true, condition 2 is true, then my whole operation is true. But if any of these two are false, then I would say my whole condition is false, right? So if condition 1 is false, 2 is true, false. This is true, this is false, false. Both are false, obviously false. Okay. So this is the this is the AND operator. Okay. Now, for example, what we have another operator, that is OR operator. Now, this is a little weird, but let's take this scenario. So I want, if my age is greater than 15, or let's say greater than 50 or less than 10, then only I want the user to be allowed. Okay. So my age is greater than equals to 50 or less than 10. Age is less than 10. Then less than 10. Then only I want the user to be allowed, right? So here I would use the OR operator. What is this OR operator? OR basically tells us that if either of these two conditions are true, I would say you are permitted. Okay. So either if this is true or this is true, I would say the whole condition is true. For that matter, let me write here 55. So here, this condition is true, right? My age value is greater than 55, right? Though it is not less than 10, but this condition is true. And if I run this, you would get the message you are permitted. So the whole condition becomes true. Got it? So this is the OR operator. Okay. It's the, another logical operator that we have. Okay. Now we also have XOR operator and all that bitwise operators, but we don't want to discuss it now. Okay, great. Now let me talk about another very important thing, that is loops. Anyone is saying something? No, I guess. Now, what are loops? Loop is basically when you want to perform a task, a similar kind of task multiple times, then you use loop. For example, I want to print from 1 to 10. Simple task, right? I want to print from 1 to 10. Now, either I can do this, so log 1, then log 2, right? And then, my bad, and then log 3, and so on, right? So I can print it like this from 1 to 10. But what if I want to print to 1 to 1000? Is it possible then? No. And here loops comes into the picture. The first one we want to discuss is for loops. Okay. So in order to do something in the for loop, you need to write for, and then let I equals to, I want to start from 1, right? I equals to 1. The condition is I should be less than equals to 10 and I plus plus. Okay. And here I want to write log I. And if I control save, you see from 1 to 10 is printed, right? So how this whole thing works? Basically, now what is this I plus plus? Can anyone tell me what is this I plus plus? What
Update
operator is this?
operation.
Sorry.
Update
Loop,
operation.
loop.
So this is a increment operator, right? Plus plus. So there is another again. Okay, when we are discussing it, let's discuss that. So we have two kind of operators: pre increment and post increment. Like for example, if I do this log 10 plus plus and I do log plus plus 10. So if I my bad. Yeah. And for now, let me just comment it out. So you have 10 and 12. Okay. How this got happened? This is uh, post increment, right? Post increment means first you use it, then increment it. So the value of this variable was 10, right? And you said print val plus plus. So post increment means first use that, then increment it. So val plus plus means first use it. So you have printed 10 and then incremented the value to 11. Now this is basically pre-increment. This says first increment it, then use it, right? So your value was 11, so you increment it, so it was 12 and then used it to print it. That's why it got 12. Is this portion clear? What is pre-increment and post-increment? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes? Okay,
Yes, sir.
great. So we were discussing about the loops, right?
Sir,
So here,
is this
yeah, sure.
so sir we write here in Java language system dot out dot print, sir. Then we are writing here console, sir. What are the difference, sir?
This is the different syntax that we have in programming languages, right? If you use Python, you will write print. If you use C, you will write C out. Yeah. For if you write Java, then system.out.println. If you write Scala, then print, right? So every different programming languages have their different kind of syntax. In Java, you cannot write like this, right? You need to create classes, and then inside that class you need to define a main, and then you need to write everything. In JavaScript, we have nothing like that, right? So different programming languages have different syntaxes. Got it?
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay. So here we have let I equals 1. This is the initial state in our loop. And this is our condition that when until i's value is less than 10, less than or equals to, and then this is I plus plus, and then this is log. So what is happening inside the loop? First, the value, this is initialization. So i's value is 1. After this, it will come here. So it will print the value of I. Then it will, no, sorry, my bad. My bad. First, it will check, go to the initialization section. So i's value is 1. Then it would check the condition that if I is value is less than equal to 10 or not. So 1 is less than equal to 10, correct? So it will enter and do the job, right? And then it will increment it to 1. So now i's value is 2. Then again it will check the condition. 2's value is again less than equals to 10. So it will again print it. Then it will again increment. So value is 3. Check, print, increment, check, go on. This loops continues. And when at the moment it prints 10, then it will increment it again. So now the value is 11. Now it will check the condition. 11 is less than equals to 10. No, it is false. So it will break out of the loop. Got it? This is how loop works. We have another kind of loop, that is the while loop. Okay. So for example, if I want to do the similar kind of job using while loop, so I would do let I equals, let's say 1. Okay. And I would check a condition that while I is less than equals to 10, I is less than equals to 10, I would say log I and I plus plus, right? Control S, and you see I have the similar kind of result. So in while loop, basically for loop, we can do three things together. In while loop, we can do things differently, right? So when this is my condition that should be satisfied, this is my condition that should be satisfied, and this is the job I want to do on each iterations. Right now, this semicolon thing in JavaScript, you can add the semicolon or you cannot add it. It won't make a difference, right? Unlike Java, okay, or Python. In Python, you will get a syntax error. In Java, you will get a syntax error if you don't use semicolon. But in JavaScript, it is lenient. You can use it or you cannot use it. Completely up to you. Okay, great. So this is all about the loops. We also have another loop, that is the do while loop. Do while loop is basically not that much difficult. So in do while loop, we first define what we want to perform and then the condition. So the difference between while and do while is the do while loop always run once before checking the condition, right? So for example, if you are creating a game, so first what you want to do, you want to uh, make sure the user plays the game for one time, right? And if he loses, then you want to check something and perform the next operation, right? So these kind of things you can achieve using do while loop. All right, all right. Next, okay, guys, we don't have much time here, so I don't want to get into functions and objects and all that. Uh, see, I would like to apologize first because this whole agenda of today was learning React. But as the situation of the class was many of you were unaware of JavaScript, that's why I thought it would be better if we can discuss about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript rather than React. Because otherwise, what's the point? You won't learn anything, right? So Now you guys can share your feedback. And again, if you want to learn in detail, you can join the JavaScript classes that we have, right? Where we discuss about all of the things in complete details. We build projects and all the stuff we do there, right? So you guys can consider joining that. Apart from that, now I want to take 5 to 6 minutes for all of your questions. So go ahead, and if you have any doubts in your mind, you can ask me, or any small concept if you want to learn.
Sir, if possible, can you just revisit the forms section from HTML, please?
Yeah, I can. So uh, let me do one thing. Let me go to the main classes that we have. Yeah, let's take this for example. This is basically our first class that I used to take only based on second class in HTML in the course. And let me show you from here only. So yeah, so this is a form, right? This is a form. Now, if you visit the code, our forms basically start here, right? So this is a form, right? Now you see, yeah, you go on with your doubt. What you wanted to ask?
I just want to revisit on the entire forms section. That's all.
Yeah.
I
So
didn't
for
quite
example,
get it.
yeah. So for example, this is the forms that I have, right? Forms basically you can see many forms that you fill regular basis, right? Let's say you order something, then you fill in your address, your expected delivery date, all that you fill it, right? Or if you want to contact us page, then also you want the user to fill in some things, right? So these are the forms, right? Now in forms, let's say here what all I have. Two things. First, you want to tell the user that what kind of input you are expecting. For example, I need to write what kind of input I should write here, right? So for that, we have labels, right? The main tag is obviously form, but inside the form, we have label, correct? Then we have different kind of input fields. For example, this is a text input, so I can write my name here, right? This is a email type input, so I can write my email here, right? Now this is password. So if I write something here, it will be encrypted. Now you can see I have also added a placeholder, right? For example, please input at least 8 characters. So this is called placeholder, which is an attribute of this input field, right? Then you can also choose a date picker. We have a type date, right? Where you can choose a particular date. For example, this. You also have a color picker. So from here, you can choose a particular color of your want, right? Okay. Now, if you let's say create something like this, choose your interest. So I like coding, I like music, I like sports, I like all of them. Then choose your gender. So here you can only choose one. So either you can male, female, other, only one thing you can choose. So this kind of fields you can create with field sets. Okay, that I discussed about, right? So field sets, and then you can create legends, right? Legend means basically this text that you are having. So what is basically you want to choose? Then you have three different inputs, and these inputs are what? Checkboxes, right? Checkboxes. Okay, and these are what? These are radio buttons. So you have type radio. Okay, now you can also create a drop down like this. So what all you want to add? So for example, this is a particular select field. Okay, this is a drop down, and you can add multiple options to your drop down. Let's say you add another field, let's say Pakistan or whatever, right? Pakistan. So you see now you have added Pakistan as an option, right? And you have multiple other fields like message, right? So this is a proper message that you can write. So you can make it large or small, write a proper text message, right? And finally, you can hit submit to submit your form. Okay. So these are the different kind of things you can do in a form. Is that clear? Anything specific you want to ask here?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Great. Anything else, guys?
Sir, where do we get this recording video, sir?
You can get this recording, I guess, in the form, or I don't have any particular idea, but what I can do is let me create a Git repo and share the Git repo with you. And you can also see the git process. Okay, I guess this would be interesting, a little bit interesting. So let me go here. This is my GitHub account. You guys, if you guys don't have it, create one, and there you can create a new git repo. Let me name it frontend webinar. Okay, frontend webinar, and this is a public repo. Now create repository. Okay, now let me just go to my folder. This is the webinar folder, right? Now let me open command prompt, and here I can say git init. Okay, so the repo is initialized. Now I can write git add dot.
Sir, can you give your GitHub account, sir? ID.
Yeah, I would git add dot git commit. Now I need to add the origin. Now I can merge it. Now my miss master. Yeah, now I guess it is done. Yes, here you will find everything that we have discussed in this class, right? Now I would share this repo with you guys. Yeah. So here, from here, you can also get my GitHub account. Okay. And please make sure to fill in this feedback form. That would be really valuable for us. Okay. Great. And you'll find the recording in the YouTube, and you can find the code in GitHub. And yeah, nice to meet you all. Okay. Looking forward to see you guys again. All right. Okay. Let's end the recording here.